Good evening. Today is Tuesday, September 2nd, 2025. I call to order a meeting of the Brockton Finance Committee. Will everyone please rise and join me in honoring our country by saluting our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Clerk, agenda item number 1, please.
Item 1, we have the appointment of Dr. Victor Sebastian of Pleasant Street, Lexington, Mass. to the role of Commissioner of Health and Human Services for the City of Brockton for a 3-year term ending July of 2028, postponed from Finance meeting of August 18th, 2025.
Mr. President, make a motion to postpone.
Councilor Griffin, I recognize you. Motion to postpone.
Second.
Properly seconded. All in favor of postponement? Anyone opposed? This matter is postponed. Number 2, please.
Item 2, we'll read waiver of the City of Brockton's residency requirement under Section 2-110 of the City Ordinances for Plumbing Gas Inspector Jason Yetman. Invited Plumbing Gas Inspector Jason Yetman.
Good evening. Mr. Deputy Commissioner, please come forward. And Mr. Yetman.
Good evening, Mr. President.
Good evening.
You can hear me?
I can hear you fine, yes.
Terrific. Thank you, councilors, for your time. This request comes from the Inspectional Services Department. We had interviewed, I think, 4 candidates. Mr. Yetman had exceptional qualifications and experience in the field. There were other candidates. Specifically, we had 2 from Brockton that were not, we didn't feel as though were qualified. And we have obviously a duty to put forth the best candidate for the job, and Mr. Yetman had all of the requisite qualifications. And again, it's not an exact science, but given the same interview questions, we decided that Mr. Yetman had the best qualifications. We found his performance from the time that we've hired him till now has been terrific. We've had absolutely no complaints. We really like Mr. Yetman, and he's very professional. We've had nothing but good feedback from not only from other staff, but from the public and the contractors in general. So we are respectfully requesting a waiver from the requirements of the ordinance for residency.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Commissioner. Mr. Yetman, you have anything to add?
I enjoy working for the city. It's new to me. I was self-employed beforehand, and unfortunately, there have been some issues with my father-in-law which have been progressing. So that's the reason I'm going for this.
Thank you, sir.
Motion to recommend favorably.
May I get a second?
Second.
On the motion.
On the motion, Councilor Farwell.
Just on the motion, Mr. Yetman, so that, first of all, you have an important position, and we need qualified people to be plumbing and gas inspectors. It's part of economic development. Sometimes there's an emergency, we need someone to respond. But talk a little bit about your background so the public understands. You didn't just walk through the door and decide to become a plumbing and gas inspector. You're obviously licensed by the state. You've had X number of years of experience. I've never met you, but I'd be interested in knowing a little bit more about your career in this line of work.
Absolutely. I come from a 3-generation plumbing family. My grandfather, my father, and myself. My grandfather started Yetman Plumbing in 1972. My father took it over in the mid-'80s, and then I took it over in 2017. And I got my journeyman license in 2005. I got my master's license in 2020, and it's been pretty much, I've been plumbing my whole life.
Just finally, I would say to Mr. Forte, if you've interviewed him, I'm glad we're going with competence and with people that you feel will fit into the Inspectional Services Department. I obviously would rather hire someone from Brockton, but if you feel this person is the best qualified, then you certainly have my support, and we need qualified people like Mr. Yetman. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Davenport.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, Mr. Yetman, nice to meet you.
Very nice to meet you.
I mean, obviously, there's no question when it's come down to your qualification, and anybody who knows me well know that, I believe in people working for Brockton, but living in Brockton, right? So in my view, if you have a willingness to work for our community, which I am proud of, but I also believe that there must be a necessity to live here. So if I may, in regard to applying for this job, right, did you know that there was a residency requirement? And I believe you've been on the job for 6 months, right?
I've been on the job for 3 months.
3 months, okay. Well, obviously I get some wrong information. So, but were you aware that there was a residency requirement?
I was, yes. And I did bring it up as a concern in the interview due to my father-in-law's failing health.
I understand. So, and when you brought that up in regard to, obviously, you not being able to move in the city, what was the answer?
That there could possibly be a waiver, but it wasn't guaranteed.
So technically, so in the process of you interviewing for the job, you were told, well, by, if you don't mind, can you tell who told you that? For the record?
That was Jim Plouffe who told me that.
So you were told by the building commissioner that there's a possibility for you to get a waiver.
Correct.
And because of that, you accepted the job.
That is
Now,
correct.
let me just put it to you like this. If, for any reason, right, you were told that there wouldn't be a possibility for you to obtain a waiver, you wouldn't apply for the job.
I would have really had to think about it. And like I said, this is all due to my father-in-law's health.
Yeah, so I just, because the reason, I will vote against this, just so you know. Not against you personally, but I will vote against it because for me, it's a matter of principle. And I'm glad that you stated on the record that the building commissioner, acknowledged there was a possibility for you to get a waiver. I mean, I don't believe you're going to have a problem with that. But in terms of obtaining vote, it will not be my vote. And obviously, it's not because of you. I have nothing against you. I don't know you. I believe you are very qualified. I trust these people to make that decision. But for me, if anybody has a desire to work for Brockton, I would like them to live in the city of Brockton. Because when we are spending the taxpayer money, there's a law in the book, right, stated that Brockton employees must live here. I mean, I know special circumstances whereby we can do a waiver, and I think it's okay, we can do that. But for this particular reason, given the fact that you just got the job, right, 3 months ago, based on what you stated, and now you are willing not to accept to live here, but rather stay where you are. Because the problem is that I don't want the next person to do so. Because the problem is that, if somebody else come, what we're going to do, we're going to say no, and they can challenge that. So with that being said, I am trying to avoid that. So for me, personally, anybody who has a desire to work for Brockton must be willing to live in Brockton. I know there's special circumstances whereby we can do that, but I've seen too many of that, where people apply for the job, knowing what to expect, right? After they got the job, they change their mind. In regard to your family, I'm sorry that they are going through some tough time. Obviously, we all have family. You have to do what you got to do for your own family, and I wish your family well, but for the sake of principle and what I believe in terms of somebody that was sent to City Hall to represent everyone, I would vote against it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jason, let me ask you point blank. If your current situation resolves itself, do you see yourself moving into the city of Brockton?
It's a hard question to ask because I don't know when it will resolve itself.
10 years, 5 years, 10 years, do you see this city as a city that you can live in?
Yes.
So if your situation resolves itself, you see yourself coming and becoming a resident of Brockton?
I would definitely consider it, yes.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor, is anyone else? Councilor Azak.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I apologize, I came in a little bit late. Mr. Yetman, I haven't, this is the first time that I've had the opportunity to hear or meet you. And I apologize if I missed this, but where do you live?
I live in Holbrook.
Holbrook, okay. And I haven't, like I said, I haven't heard, nobody reached out to me regarding your residency waiver, so I'm a little torn here because I'm all about, Brockton residents, and I think we should give the priority to Brockton residents, and that's why we have these, the opportunity for employees that aren't residents to move into the city, so I'm just a bit torn. Maybe this question is to Mr. Forte. What difficult was it to fill this position? And I apologize if I missed it, if you already explained this.
I think we had 4 candidates. Mr. Yetman was the strongest candidate out of all 4. I would just tell you that we asked all of the applicants the same questions, and depending on how they answer, normally we can get a pretty good idea as to how they're going to react out in the field. I would say that being a plumbing contractor is markedly different from being a plumbing inspector. You're actually going from one side of the counter to the other. So you're going from being more like the coach to the referee. And being the referee and calling a game fair or foul is not an easy thing. And it does require a certain amount of, I would say, some acumen when it comes to when it comes to dealing with the public, and you have to have a pretty good reservoir of technical experience to be able to, discern what requirements they are. And Mr. Yetman had the best, most diverse background, and I also knew his family out there in the contractor world, so I had an idea as to what kind of work he did. And, there's really no science to it. There's just simply, you get a feel for the way that someone answers a question, and Mr. Yetman had all the right answers, and we all agreed that he was the candidate. So.
Sure. And I apologize again because I didn't receive a resume. I don't know if did we receive a resume? I went through my emails, I didn't find one, but, once again, how long have you been in the plumbing?
I've been plumbing since 2001, and I apologize, I'm a little nervous.
Oh, no, don't worry,
I was an inspector prior to coming to Brockton.
Okay.
I was an alternate inspector in Hull, Cohasset, and Hingham. So it wasn't a full-time job, but, I did inspect prior to coming to Brockton.
Okay. Thank you, and I don't, this by no means to make you nervous at all. It just, like I said, I didn't get any information regarding this residency waiver prior to this agenda. So, okay, I mean, I get the feeling that it's going to be very hard for you to move into Brockton, and I understand that it's not the easiest thing to do to uplift your life and family and move to another city, even though Holbrook really is, I always see it's so close to Brockton. So, well, thank you again for working for Brockton, and I just, that ends my questions. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor, is anyone else? Seeing none, motion has been made and properly seconded to recommend this matter favorably. All who want to recommend favorably. Anyone opposed? One in opposition. Order is recommended favorably.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Deputy Commissioner and Mr. Yetman.
Thank you so much.
Ordered that the city, pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53A and 53A.5, hereby accepts the following gifts from Robert Bouchain to the Council on Aging with a total estimated value of $321.47. Attaches a miscellaneous list of stationery items. Invited to attend, Director of the CAO Janice Fitzgerald or her designee, and CFO Dr. Troy Clarkson.
Motion to recommend favorably.
Second.
On the motion?
On the motion, good evening, Dr. Clarkson.
Good evening. Since the motion has been made, I think the items in your agenda were very clear about what the donation items are. I'm happy to answer any questions. We do have a representative of the Council on Aging here as well.
Good evening, ma'am. Councilor Nacastro.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Good evening.
Good evening, thank you.
How generous of this man to purchase these things for the Council on Aging. And I know we recently made him a member of the board of the Council on Aging. He's also on the Beautification Committee. I got to work with him in that last year. And I'm sure he will continue to contribute items that you need, that you will benefit from. It's just the cumulative value was such that it needed to come in and be approved by the council. I hope you understand. I hope Janet understands.
Yep, absolutely.
And let me say on behalf of the council, we appreciate his generosity. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, agreed. Thank you, Mr. Bouchonais. Councilors, no further questions. Motion is made and properly seconded to recommend this matter favorably. All in favor? Anyone opposed? This order is recommended favorable.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you
very
for coming
much.
in.
Have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 4, ordered that the following named sum be and the same is hereby transferred as the same was submitted by the mayor as follows. An appropriation of $33,547.68 from Human Resources Benefits to Procurement Personal Services Non-Overtime, $6,655.52, to DPW Commissioner Personal Services Non-Overtime, $3,593.56, to Library Personal Services Non-Overtime, $1,216.08, to the Council on Aging Personal Services Non-Overtime, $2,769.39, to Parks and Recreation Personal Services Non-Overtime, $6,655.52, to Police Personal Services Non-Overtime, $1,674.86, to DPW Engineering Personal Services Non-Overtime, $1,785.55, to Board of Health Personal Services Non-Overtime, $7,643.86, to Veteran Services Personal Services Non-Overtime, $1,553.33. Invited Director of HR Sandra Knight, CFO Dr. Troy Clarkson.
Again, good evening, Dr. Clarkson and Director Knight. Floor is yours.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and councilors. Happy to be here. I'll provide a little additional texture on this item as there are two similar items, as you know, following on your agenda. But this and the next two items represent the funding for settlement of collective bargaining agreements. The negotiations were led by the law department, but both Director Knight and I participated in all the sessions. As we've discussed with you in this forum, our objective this year was to execute one-year contracts through the community compact that we've received from the Commonwealth. Our hope is to be a little reflective and do some long-range financial planning, and the Commonwealth has given us the funds, and then you provided us additional funds to participate in that effort. So both from a legal perspective and taking sort of a 30,000-foot view at our overall strategy related to contracts and collective bargaining, and from a financial perspective looking at revenues and expenses and their escalation over the next hopefully 3 to 5 years, we wanted to take a pause while we did that work. And so we asked the unions to take that pause with us and execute a one-year deal at a modest 1.5%. That's what this settlement represents. This one is for the department heads union, and soon we'll ask you to do the same with the laborers and library. But they are very simple deals. I have the memoranda of agreement here before me. The department head was a simple 1.5% increase as of July 1st. This one in particular did recognize an additional slight adjustment in the salary for the superintendent of parks, the director of procurement, and the executive health officer. But the numbers that you see represent those increases for the members of the department head union. And Sandra, of course, can provide any additional information, or I'm happy to answer any questions.
Dr. Knight, did you have anything to add, or will you wait for questions? Or
No, I would just wait for questions.
Understood. Councilor Farwell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dr. Clarkson, as you know, and you and I go back and forth a lot on examining things and getting pretty granular in what we discuss and what we look at. So I'd like to go to the memorandum of agreement between the city and the Brockton department heads. And let's just take a look at item number 2. And again, this is referring to the position, not the person. You're changing the pay scale for that position. What effect will that have in terms of a salary increase for that position?
So the increase, as you can see in the transfer order, is a little over $6,000. That includes both the 1.5% increase and the adjustment and the overall salary for that position.
Okay, so that $6,000 is all for that particular position?
I believe so. I don't think there's a member of the department heads union that works for the parks other than the director, but he.
Well, no,
Yep, other than Tim Carpenter, he's the only.
it does say that you're placing the superintendent of parks, acting superintendent of cemeteries position at the same pay scale as the director of operations position, Muni Code S52, effective July 1, 2025. So
Right.
there's going to be approximately a 4-month retro. What I want to know is, what is the old salary for that position, and what will the new salary be, given the fact that you are going to change that salary to a different classification?
I don't know, Counselor, off the top of my head, but we can certainly get that information for you. And
All
since
right,
this,
I was going to ask you the same for the Director of Procurement, and I was going to ask you the same for the Executive Health Officer. And by the way, in order to judge whether we're being fair and consistent with our department heads and these other unions, what are the schools offering for their rank and file positions? Are they offering 1.5%? Do you know? Are they offering more? Have they settled? Do we have any information to compare whether we're treating the municipal government side with fairness compared to the school side?
so they are, I believe, still in the middle of negotiations. We were able to participate recently in an executive session with the school committee and provided information on what our approach has been. So I'm not, I don't think that they have settled. We made them aware and collaborated on our approach and theirs, and that represents, I think, an important step forward. But I don't think that they have finalized their agreements yet. But again, that's something that we can follow up on.
Well, again, in terms of fairness, and councilors, some of you know 10 years ago I was interested in comparing the school side versus the city side, not for certified staff, because obviously if you're teaching biology with a PhD, you're going to have a different wage scale than you would an administrative assistant. But it bothers me that we're offering 1.5%, and we don't know if people are going to get much more than that in other collective bargaining agreements. It bothers me with respect to the Laborers International Union and the library unit that if they're only getting 1.5%, you know, it's at a time when suddenly we need a deputy DPW commissioner, and suddenly we need to go from a water systems manager at $110,000 to a deputy DPW commissioner. And you know, I'm not in favor of ever wasting taxpayers' dollars, but I am in favor of making sure that we take our employee workforce and we treat them uniformly and consistently, and we offer uniform and consistent and rational increases. I have no choice but to vote for this. I have no choice because we don't participate in collective bargaining. But I will say that, and this doesn't apply to Sandra or to Dr. Claxon, whoever negotiated these packages, I wouldn't get up and beat my breast that you've saved the city from financial ruin. I think we've made a minimal effort to coordinate between school and municipal. I will be aghast if I find out that the schools offer 2% or 2.5%, and our folks are shortchanged again, because the wage disparity is already very well documented. So I'm not happy with these. I don't participate in bargaining as a counselor, but I can certainly voice my displeasure and say that I think we need to drill down and make sure we treat everyone with respect, courtesy, fairness, particularly when it comes to collective bargaining. And Dr. Claxon, I will send as you know, I have my tentacles out and I talk to a lot of people. I would send a message back to the people who may participate on the bargaining team, and this does not apply to either one of you. If someone says to a union, well, you're already overpaid, so we really shouldn't give you any more money, I would remind that person that you're talking to people that you settled a contract with. If they're overpaid, it's because the city agreed to that. That's why we call it collective bargaining and an agreement. And nothing goes up my spine more than when I hear allegations that that type of comment would be made. So I'm only one vote, I'm only one resident, but please carry back the message. Be courteous, be respectful to our employee workforce. Don't tell them they're overpaid. If you feel you're underpaid, don't let the door hit you in the behind on the way out. But don't treat people like that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor. Anyone else? Councilors, if you don't mind, I have one quick question. Mr. Clarkson, you brought up the issue of the community compact. Can you explain what that is? You said there were funds directed towards the Brockton from the state through this community compact.
Yes.
I'm just unfamiliar. If you could explain.
Sure. The Community Compact Grant is something that was begun under the previous administration, I believe, and is to assist municipalities with research or projects or things that they normally wouldn't be able to fund through their normal course of business. And so we applied for a Community Compact Grant and we received $150,000, the largest ever for a Community Compact Grant from the Commonwealth. And then, if you recall, last fiscal year, we came to you and you put skin in the game for an additional, I believe, $100,000. And so that will enable us to engage Open Architects, who has worked for the schools for a couple of years now, to assist us in creating long-range financial plans so that we can come to you not only on an annual basis and talk about revenues and expenses, but do something we just frankly haven't had the time to do, and that is to really project forward several years so that we can legitimately project what our revenues and expenses are going to be. And that's related to this collective bargaining agreement and all of the others, because what we asked the unions to do was to execute one-year deals, to give us the opportunity to take the time to do that long-range planning so that we could then execute more long-term deals, usually 3 years. So the Community Compact is an important part of our approach to really, in a post-school deficit world, have a long-range sense of where we're headed fiscally. And I think that's a real important step forward that we have not been able to do.
Okay, understood. Now it's coming back to me. This is so that the city has funding to hire consultants to better help us enhance some processes and give us some perspective on long-term planning. Okay.
Absolutely, right.
Understood. Councilors, Mr. Clerk, was a motion made?
I don't believe so.
Councilors, I'd entertain a motion.
Motion to recommend favorably.
Second.
Motion was made, properly seconded, to recommend this order favorably. All in favor? Anyone opposed? The order is recommended favorable.
Item 5, order that the following named sum be and the same is hereby transferred as the same was submitted by the mayor as follows. Transfer of $63,566.62 from Human Resources Benefits to Cemetery Personal Services Non-Overtime, $3,847.90. To DPW Highway Personal Services Non-Overtime, $29,334.34. To DPW Maintenance Personal Services Non-Overtime, $2,157.17. To DPW Refuse Division Personal services non-overtime, $6,624.70. 2, Parks and Recreation, personal services non-overtime, $9,030.22. 2, Public Property, personal services non-overtime, $5,324.28. 2, Parking Authority, personal services non-overtime, $7,248.02. Invited Director of HR, Sandra Knight. CFO, Dr. Troy Clarkson.
Again, good evening, Dr. Clarkson, Director Knight. Floor is yours.
Thank you. This is for our laborers union, and as you can see in the proposed order, the departments that have personnel that make up that union. One thing I neglected to mention, Mr. Chair, in the previous item, all of these increases are within the approved fiscal year 2026 budget. As you'll recall, we asked you and you approved setting aside $1 million in the HR budget. So the money is already in the budget to fund these increases. We're not seeking additional funding, and hopefully as we settle the other contracts, we'll be back before you. But I wanted to, when I said in my email to you yesterday that this was fiscally responsible and sustainable, what I meant was it's available through this current year's budget.
Thank you. Councilors, any questions? Councilor Lally.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Dr. Clarkson.
Evening.
Good evening, Director Knight.
Good evening.
Fiscally responsible is good. I like fiscally responsible. But I just want to know how we're prepared to sort of bridge some of the gaps, I think, that are generated with contracts like this. I mean, Councilor Farwell already said, you know, I couldn't say it any better than he did. And I am interested to see what comes out of the school department for negotiations, but cost of living and insurance far exceeds the 1.5. So I am going to take with some optimism your statement that, you know, this is a year to rebuild and reassess, especially as, you know, this is something that, you know, we don't negotiate. We're not part of that process. But I wanted it on the record, and I wanted to be abundantly clear that I don't think that this is a tenable long-term solution. Giving, you know, we're asking all these people to stay here and to be here, but we're not prepared to allow them to afford to do that. So that's just something I wanted to make clear before we vote on this. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilors, anyone else? Just another quick question. We're settling up 3 contracts this evening. How many contracts are outstanding?
We have a total of 11, I believe,
Yeah,
right? So there are 8 others in various stages. Some of them are nearing or finished and will come before you soon. Others we're still working on. If I might, Mr. Chairman, just to quickly address what Councilor Lally said, I think he's absolutely right. It was difficult to sit across the table and look at colleagues that were faced with a 14.5% increase on their health insurance costs, and then asked to accept a modest increase of 1.5%. And so we're grateful for their collaboration and their sacrifice. But in the face of what happened just a couple of years ago, we're really trying hard to stabilize the city for the long term. As I've said from this desk before, 60 communities in Massachusetts sought override votes this spring. We weren't one of them because we're trying very hard to maintain a fiscally responsible approach here. And the fact that our employees joined with us in that, I think, demonstrates the depth of the relationship that we have and their willingness to collaborate with us on a solution. So we recognize it's not optimal, but we also recognize that it's the most responsible thing to do at this point.
Thank you, Dr. Clarkson. Councilor Castro.
Thank you. Good evening. I was going to say this at the end after the third item, but I want to extend kudos to all of those unions for working with us for these one-year contracts versus 3. And I really hope that we can do much better in a year because everybody works hard. Everyone's felt the pinch caused by the school deficiencies. That's a really important thing to say. I'm sure all of my colleagues share that feeling. You just mentioned, Mr. Clarkson, that 16 Massachusetts communities had override votes, right? How many passed, to your knowledge?
Counselor, it was actually 66-0. And I
6-0.
don't know the exact number, but I can tell you many did not.
Right, and I was hearing they weren't in the spring. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question is actually for Sandra. I know you've been back for about 6 months or so. Are there any plans, because Dr. Clarkson has just brought up the fact that the health insurance went up 14% for everybody, and it actually went up for us as well. Are there any plans to continuously look for other plans that are out there, plans that might be a little more easy on the pocketbook for our folks to deal with so that we don't see? Because I just want to kind of echo the sentiments of the councilors that spoke before me. A lot of the folks that we are dealing with in these departments, especially in City Hall itself, they do not benefit from overtime like some of the other departments do. It's not like they can actually make it up in the other end, so they rely on those percentages, as little as the percentages are, because they don't have that much of a choice. Some of the other folks can, work 2 or 3 hours here and there in overtime and kind of make up the difference. So I think we must, on our end, seek out ways of kind of reducing costs so that and again, we want to thank them for working with us, but at the same time, if we didn't have to increase their health insurance by 14% and we increased it by maybe 10 or a little less than that, because the plans are a little cheaper, a little more affordable in the sense, I think we can make ends meet a lot easier, and it's easier to swallow that they're only getting 1.5% increase if their health insurance is not going that higher up there. So do you foresee any work that you're going to be doing in a short term? I mean, not long term, because short term to seek out some other plans or some other ways so that we can kind of lower the cost of health insurance for the employees of the city?
Yeah, well, for short term, we're starting to, actually, we're working on something now in terms of our voluntary health benefits. We do have programs out there that do help with prescription costs. We do have telehealth, options as well. We have, different ways to help minimize certain costs, which I don't think a lot of employees are aware of. So my department actually is starting to work on voluntary benefits fair for employees to get more information out there to start utilizing some of these programs that can help cut costs. And then also to answer your question, the second question about looking at other health plans, that to me, that sounds like a great option. I think we should be able to look out and try to assess what other plan maybe that we can utilize that can maybe break down some of those costs too, or, a cheaper plan with, I don't know, something would help with the cost, but I'm open to searching, looking, talking to some of my colleagues.
So what prohibits you from doing that?
Nothing. Nothing is prohibiting me from doing that. Right now, I'm looking at the voluntary piece of it to help with these costs. Like I said, a lot of employees are not aware of some of these programs. When I got here, I was like, well, what do we have? What's our list? What do we offer? So right now is my focus in trying to get some of those costs, to help them with that.
Yeah, because to me, it's an easy and simple way to balance things out. Because if you can go up to the employees and say, look, we can only afford, we've got to be realistic with people. We can only afford 1 or 2%. That's all we can do. But at the same time, instead of you paying 14% increase for your health insurance, it's only going to go up 5%. Then at least it's more bearable in the sense. What about, I know some of the other communities have done this. I'm not exactly sure which ones, but we have a lot of folks that are in in married plans or family plans. It doesn't matter if you have 2 people or 100 people, your rate is still the same.
Right.
Is there any sort of programs out there that allows, a couple, somebody that's actually now in their late years of service, to maybe split that thing up into 2 single plans versus 1 family plan? Because if you look at the plans that we currently have, if you put two single people together, it's a lot less than that family plan that a lot of us pay.
Right.
Are there any solutions to that particular problem, or am I just kind of?
I know right now the city does not follow what maybe like Blue Cross Blue Shield has, like a individual plus one or something like that.
So why don't we do that?
We can look into it. I'm just, coming in, so we can
Right,
definitely look at that
I know
as
you
well.
came in and you found a
Yeah.
department that was a little bit on the
Yeah.
unstable grounds in the sense, but you know what? As they say, you're the boss of the kitchen now. If
I
there's a
am.
fire in that kitchen, you're going to have
That's
to put
right.
it out.
I got my apron on. I'm ready to
Yeah.
go.
Okay. I hope you do look into that, because I think it provides us with a very economical way of combating, because again, if we have lemons, all we can do is make lemonade, so we got to be a little realistic that if we can't afford to give the raises that we need to, then we got to make it up some other way to kind of be fair to the employees that
I
bust their
absolutely
hump in this
agree.
place every day.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselors, anyone else?
Motion to recommend favorably, if there's any more questions.
I believe that's the first motion. Second. Okay. Motion was made, properly seconded, to recommend this matter favorably. All in favor? Anyone opposed? The order is recommended favorable.
Item 6, ordered that the following named sum be and the same is hereby transferred as the same was submitted by the mayor as follows. Appropriation of $22,151.48 from Human Resources Benefits to Library Personal Services non-overtime. Invited Director of HR Sandra Knight, CFO Dr. Troy Clarkson.
Dr. Clarkson, Director Knight, again, good evening. Floor is yours.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. This settlement is for our library employees, and again, the base wage increase of 1.5%. This agreement in particular, recognizing some of the challenges that we've discussed this evening, does have some adjustments in personal days and vacation time to mitigate the impacts of the 1.5% increase and to offer some adjustments to the work-life balance.
Thank you. Councilors?
Motion to recommend favorably.
Second.
Motion is made, properly seconded, to recommend this matter favorably. All in favor? Anyone opposed? This order is recommended favorable.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Clarkson and Director Knight.
Thank you. Everyone have a good night.
Yeah, you as well.
Item 7, ordered that the City of Brockton appropriates the amount of $470,000 for the purpose of purchasing equipment used to maintain DW Field Golf Course. To meet this appropriation, the city treasurer, with the approval of the mayor, is authorized to borrow said amount under Mass General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 7-1, or pursuant to any other enabling authority, and to issue bonds or notes of the city therefore. Further order that the city treasurer is authorized to file an application with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Municipal Finance Oversight Board to qualify under Mass General Law, Chapter 44A, any and all bonds or notes of the city authorized by this order, and to provide such information and execute such documents as the Municipal Finance Oversight Board of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts may require. Invited Superintendent of Parks Timothy Carpenter, Treasurer Collector Martin Brophy, CFO Dr. Troy Clarkson.
Good evening, Mrs. Superintendent, Dr. Clarkson.
Evening, Mr. Chairman. I'll give a brief overview of the financial impacts of this order, and then the superintendent can certainly discuss the specific equipment needs. But one of the things that suffered in the wake of the school deficit was our ability to do any capital planning or invest in our departments. As you know, the DW Field Golf Course is regarded as one of the best, if not the best, municipal course in the Commonwealth. And we haven't had the ability to invest in the equipment in some time. So Tim and I are working on a plan to invest in equipment. We're also working on a plan to replace and upgrade the golf carts, and you'll see something on that soon. An approach for lease versus purchase. But tonight we're focused on the investment in the equipment. So in your packet, and I have it here before me, is a listing of several significant pieces of equipment. And I frankly don't know the difference between a ground master and a green master, but luckily we have someone here tonight that does. But what I can tell you is that the $470,000 equates to roughly between $35,000 and $40,000 a year in principal and interest payments, depending on interest rates when we go to the market. And what I've provided you is a spreadsheet that shows the steady revenue growth from the enterprise fund over the last several years due to Tim and his team's efforts to market and gain interest. As you all know, post-pandemic, golf has increased significantly in popularity. But there are a lot of options here, and because of the condition and the reputation of DW, it continues to have very robust interest. And so I'm confident that given the revenue growth and the operation, that we can easily support the debt service on this, what frankly is a modest investment in the equipment, and have the funds to support this debt service. And then I'll defer to Tim for any specifics on the equipment.
Good evening, councilors. Thank you for hearing this matter here this evening. As Dr. Clarkson mentioned, it really is conditions of a golf course that bring golfers to it. I don't know if anybody's seen the reports about the worst golf course in America, and it was Leo J. Martin, just right up the road from us, state-run course, and it is in really, really bad shape. Ponkapog was on that list as well, again, right up the street from us, another state-run course. And it really is conditions that bring golfers to a golf course. This equipment that we would like to purchase is necessary to keep our golf course in the shape that brings golfers to it. If there are any specific questions on the items listed, I'd be happy to answer.
Councilor Castro.
Thank you, gentlemen. Good evening. So you've given us the golf revenues, and I do appreciate this, but what is the golf course expenses? Can you furnish that to us?
So I guess we can definitely get you that information.
And that's a golf course enterprise fund?
So the entire department functions as an enterprise.
Yes, so that includes the parks and everything else.
Correct.
So you can surely break down what the golf course expenses are
Absolutely.
versus everything else. Because I know that in the summer months, your employees are paid additional overtime because they're working at the golf course,
Right.
because it's the season.
Correct.
So you'll include that in it as well?
Yep.
Okay. I would like to see that well ahead of a vote on Monday. And I have no doubt that you need this information at some, or this equipment. At some point, you had told me you haven't replenished the equipment in several years.
Right. So, for example, one of the greens masters, currently we have 3 greens mowers, and 2 of them are eating hydraulic motors. We've replaced 4 hydraulic motors just this season alone. So the 2 that we would be looking to replace were purchased in 2009 and 2011.
Wow. You've done your best.
We have Band-Aided it as long as we can.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Farwell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I, too, have no issue with the equipment being needed, but, you know, if I'm sitting at home watching this program, this meeting, and the city has a $550 million budget, and I hear that they've got to borrow $470,000, I mean, it just doesn't really sit well with me. There is no way of going through every city department and looking at positions that were perhaps funded on July 1st, but that aren't going to be filled or haven't been filled. For example, police recruits, because we haven't sent them to the academy, fire department recruits. There's no other way to cobble together $470,000 other than to make it appear that the city has to borrow that. And maybe it's false pride in me, and you know me, Troy, I don't have a big ego. If I'm all wet on this, you let me know. But can you see the optics of it? Can you understand?
It's an excellent question, Counselor. And it goes to the very essence of what an enterprise fund is. If we operated the golf course and all of recreation under the general fund, then most certainly we could do that. And yes, thank you for providing an excellent window due to the efforts of not just our department heads, but our employees to run very tight ships. We finished fiscal year 25 with an operating surplus of more than $10 million. So that's more than $10 million of budgeted but unspent funds. Most of that was from unfilled positions in the police and fire departments. But other departments tightened their belts and did a really good job of watching their expenses. But because recreation and the golf are within the enterprise fund, then I believe the most responsible way, and the goal of an enterprise fund, is to support its operations within that closed system. And so that's why when we add water pipes, we borrow money and it's paid within the enterprise fund. And so this is the same concept. It's really an attempt to have the operation support itself. And so that operation does not have that kind of surplus to be able to support those with cash. And I think so this is the best way to have the operation continue to support itself.
And I understand that. But if you finish with a $10 million surplus, to not be able to appropriate from unexpended, unencumbered funds $470,000 to go out to borrowing, aren't we going to have to pay bond counsel? Aren't we going to have to pay some interest? Aren't there going to be expenses over and above the $470,000 to do it this way? And that's my only objection to it. I'm not quibbling with you about your financial management philosophy, but I got to tell you, that's just the way I feel, folks. I'm sorry. It's in the record, and the vote will be what it is. I certainly support what you want to do. I guess I'm arguing I'm not really that happy about how we're doing it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Understood.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Razak.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, gentlemen. So obviously, it's important that we upgrade this equipment that we need. My only question is, what are we doing with the old equipment? Like, obviously, unless they're totally broken, are we donating them, trying to resell them?
So some of the equipment, so for example, the first piece of equipment listed for the Toro, quote, the Groundsmaster 4500. That's going to replace a large area rough mower that we purchased in 2012. My plan is to take that mower, the existing mower that we already own, store it in the garage down at O'Donnell's, and that way we'll be able to mow O'Donnell's and Snow Park much more efficiently with a much larger mower, but it won't get the daily, weekly abuse that it gets at the golf course. So even Band-Aided, it should last longer and increase our efficiency. So we do have plans to utilize several pieces of the equipment that are being replaced with these pieces of equipment.
That's good to hear. And, for example, the golf carts, so I know that Mr. Clarkson said that he's, that's to upgrade the golf carts. What would we do with the ones that we have? Would we just keep them, get them?
So that, as Dr. Clarkson indicated, that's something we're still sort of working through. And, I'm working through Mr. Morris and the procurement side of it as well. If we were to move forward with the idea of a lease, then we would, in order to make the first year of the payments more manageable, we would trade in the fleet.
Okay. Very good. I just hate to see that we have equipment that's still working, that's just, lying somewhere, because it's all money that we've spent at some point. Very
Also,
good.
my employees often call me Sanford from Sanford and Son because I do not get rid of anything. I still have the wall cap from the old City Hall walls around this place down at my office. I am dedicated to reusing what I can reuse.
Thank you. And we appreciate that, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor.
Mr. Chairman.
Councilor Davenport.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Carpenter, how much I respect you, I value you, and all of that in regard to, the job that you are doing, at the parks in regard to, making sure that we are maintaining, these facilities. And obviously, doing the budget, which was less than, about 2 months ago, right? July 1st, we passed the budget for 500. Now, I want you folks to understand what I'm about to say, right? 2 months ago, we passed the budget for $555 million, which was created by the CFO. But before I even go there, I just want to acknowledge that, I support the golf course, I support the parks, and I know you've been doing an excellent job. And obviously, you saw me doing the budget, trying to save your budget, even though they cut your budget, right? They did. They took some of your money, what have you. I just want to say publicly, I support what you are trying to do. And obviously, even though you are the commissioner, but you have a boss. You have somebody that you report to, and you go based on what they want. And obviously, your recommendation can be acknowledged, but if the desire is not there to fund it, they will not. Thank you for that. In regard to you, Mr. Clarkson, like I said, July 1st, September 2nd, 2 months ago, you, in collaboration with the mayor, proposed a budget. Obviously, it was your budget, right? Because you are the CFO. $555 million. So during that process, did you know that the golf course need this equipment?
Yes, but there's a distinction, Councilor, between the operating budget and the capital budget. And so, as I mentioned in my opening remarks, because of the fiscal constraints, we haven't been able to invest in capital items in the last few years. In fact, there's a very old ordinance on the books here in Brockton that asks for an annual capital plan, and it's something we've been working on for a little while now. So generally, but not always, operating expenses are funded through the operating budget, and then capital expenses are funded separately through capital purchases. And so that's what we're trying to do here, is to get back to funding the operating budget, but also starting to reinvest in our departments through capital purchases.
Excellent, Dr. Clarkson. I mean, I know you are a very smart man, and you do have the ability, to use words to convince, right? So I'm asking you very simple questions, and I would like to get simple answers. I don't need a speech, none of that. So other than borrowing this money, was there any opportunity, right, to get it within the city without going outside to get it? $470,000.
Certainly, I would say no, not within the general revenues of the golf course and the enterprise, because generally we have subsidized the operation of the Parks Department because the golf course is the primary revenue source. There are some others, but they're minor. And so you have legitimately approved subsidizing that operation over the last several years because most communities invest general funds in recreation.
Mr. CFO, earlier you acknowledged, multiple times you've been doing that, you said we had a surplus of $10 million. So now here we are, right, using taxpayer money, trying to borrow $470,000. The question to you, right, it's simple. Other than borrowing the money, was there anything that you can do as the CFO? You are the CFO, right? Was there anything else that you can do without going out there to borrow that money for the sake of the golf course? I'm asking you. You are the CFO.
No, understood, Councilor, and it's an excellent question. I think, was there anything we could do? The answer is absolutely yes. But as I mentioned in response to the question from Councilor Farwell, I believe based on the fact that this is an enterprise fund, this is the best and most responsible way to proceed.
But I'll tell you this, so if there were, here we are, right? We are dealing with taxpayers' money. I'm a taxpayer too, right? I might be elected, but I'm also paying taxes too. So if there is any possibility to access that money within, whereby we don't have to pay interest on it, Why not do it? Why do we have to go outside to borrow $470,000 and pay taxes on it and pay interest on it when we can actually access that money within? And obviously, for people that may not understand, I'm assuming that's your job, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's my job to recommend, I think, the most responsible and sustainable fiscal approach to this council. And so remember that extra $10 million becomes our certified free cash. And we need that certified free cash to balance the budget every year. In fact, the last couple of years, because of the school deficit, we've dipped into the Chapter 324 reserve for between $7 and $8 million a year to balance the budget. So it's important to note that while we had that surplus, we need that surplus because we then use it to balance the next year's budget. So it's an important part of our overall strategy to be able to keep our departments running, our general fund departments running, the way they do. And so I don't want to create a sense that we have a pot of money that we should be spending on capital items. That's what I would love to do, is wean the city off of the use of free cash to balance the budget and use that to invest in capital. But, Councilor, we're simply not there. The fact that we have been able to balance the budget these last couple of years without any state intervention is quite an accomplishment. So I do believe, yes, we're paying interest, and yes, there are other costs, but given the fiscal state of the town, the city, I think the fact that we can even go to the market and get competitive rates. Remember this, we just had our outlook upgraded from negative to stable. So the markets themselves are responding positively to the work that we're doing in our fiscal approach.
I mean, obviously, you provided this document in terms of what, the Gulf has been doing. I mean, obviously, the council from Ward 4, Council Nacastro, acknowledge, why not see, the expenses? And obviously, you acknowledge on the record you will provide this information. The reason I'm asking this question is the fact that, obviously, not too far ago, we had a mess in the city. We had a financial mess whereby the school deficit and, of course, the public safety complex, right, which went $50-something million over budget. And we are spending taxpayer money. And at the end of the day, you as the CFO, right, the people trust your judgment through the mayor's office, right, to make the best financial decision that we can assume. And at the end of the day, for me, I found it financially irresponsible after passing a budget for $555 million less than 2 months ago. Now here we are back in the chamber requesting to borrow $470,000. And let me just say this to you folks. The problem is that no one is against buying the tools to fix the golf course. No one is against buying the best quality equipment whereby, yes, we can have one of the best top golf facility in Massachusetts when it comes down to municipality. That's not the problem. The problem is how we are taking money, borrowing money, and spending money. And in my view, and I'll be honest with you, and I said it earlier, as the CFO, it would have been nice to actually acknowledge that during the budget times. At least we had an idea of what to expect. Because at the end of the day, for the average person who may not understand, $470,000, that's a lot of money. And like I said, you're going to have to pay interest on that. And make it make sense to somebody who's watching this now, knowing that this council together just passed a budget for $555 million and now coming back less than 2 months trying to borrow money. And you keep on saying we had a surplus, $10 million and all of that. For me, and again, it is irresponsible to do that. And with that being said, I will leave it there.
So if I might, Mr. Chairman, because I very respectfully but vehemently disagree with you, Councilor. It is not irresponsible whatsoever. It, in fact, is common practice and a best practice that an enterprise fund support its operations through its own revenues. And as I mentioned to you before, I certainly don't suggest that you can't and should not have your own opinion, but the markets, the financial markets, believe that we are headed on the right track because they recently upgraded our outlook from negative to stable. And that was after a very detailed analysis of our general fund, of our enterprise funds, of our capital spending, and the fact that, again, we can sit here and talk about investing in our infrastructure and have a bond rating that is solid when other large cities in proximity to Brockton are struggling with their outlook from the rating agencies, I think is testament to the fact that we've taken a very fiscally responsible approach.
Thank you, Mr. Clarkson. Councilors, I'd entertain a motion.
Motion to recommend favorably.
Second.
Motion is made, properly seconded, to recommend this matter favorably. All in favor? Anyone opposed? The order is recommended favorable. Next item agenda.
Item 8, ordered that pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 40, Section 14, and the City of Brockton's Ordinance 2-157, the City of Brockton hereby accepts the lease agreement entered into with Metro South Chamber of Commerce, Inc., a nonprofit corporation which has an address of 60 School Street, Brockton, Mass., for certain real property located at 50 School Street, Brockton, Mass. Said lease agreement shall run for a 3-year term beginning July 1, 2025, and ending June 30, 2028. The mayor is authorized to execute any and all documents necessary in connection with said lease agreement. Invited Honorable Mayor Robert Sullivan, City Solicitor Megan Bridges and/or her designee, CFO Dr. Troy Clarkson, and oversight by myself was Mr. Rob May. Should have been invited also.
Thank you. Good evening, Dr. Clarkson, Solicitor Bridges.
Good evening.
Floor is yours.
Thank you. I invited Rob to be here because his office occupies the space, and also because this was procured through procurement as is required because of the cost of the lease. Just a little bit of background is you all know that the City Hall is being renovated, and right now Sandra Knight, who was sitting here before, is occupying the 3rd floor in the Planning Department's old space. Also, the mayor took on administration of CDBG monies and other federal housing and urban development monies, and so Rob's department has expanded. And that's essentially a little bit of context on it. A little details of the lease: it's 1,800 square feet of space. A percentage of the lease is being paid with CDBG money. It was procured. It's able to be canceled in 90 days. It's the city's option to extend. It can be canceled for any reason at any time. It's a very friendly relationship. This, I'll let Rob speak to this part, but my understanding is that the city needed some space, and that's what was available. And I've been in front of you all before suggesting that the legislative body is really the folks who need to approve any real property interests, and that's what a lease is, and so that's why I'm here. And I'll take any questions if you have them. Otherwise, I defer to Rob.
Thank you, Madam Solicitor.
Motion to recommend favorably.
Okay. Motion was made, properly seconded. On the motion, Councilor Castro.
Thank you. Good evening. So this is my question. It's 1,800 square feet of space on the 2nd floor of the building across the street at 50 School Street. Why do we need to take additional space and pay this rent when we have a city hall and we have space that will eventually be returned upstairs?
The question, it's a very good question, and the answer is the city in general has added some new positions, and space is at a premium here in City Hall. And taking over the Community Development Block Grant and home funding programs has added 4 new employees to our department. And it was not feasible to keep both staffs or both divisions of the staff departments together in one spot. And it's important that they be supervised jointly and not be dislocated into two different areas, especially since we were taking over the CDBG program and that being very, very new and needing a lot of attention.
Okay, so the rent is $4,800 a month, an annual of $57,600. How much of that will be paid out of CDBG funds?
And that is the one correction I would like to make to the previous statement. And actually, the answer is 100% is being paid out of the Community Development Block Grant Fund.
Okay, so the city is on the hook for it, but the grant will provide the funding for it.
That is correct.
Okay, and how carved in stone is that grant? Can we foresee losing the grant and therefore being on the hook for the rent funds?
The grants were extended in the last federal budget that was passed a couple of months ago. Obviously, there's a new budget that begins on October 1st. There have been no notices that any cuts in CDBG are forthcoming. So we're fairly comfortable that those funds will be here. Now, one thing the councilor did point out is that the lease is cancelable within a 90-day notice. So if worse comes to worse, we're able to get out of it.
Actually, Section 3.3 says written notice of at least 30 days in advance, so it might even be less than 90 days, although 90 days is the classy way to do it. Okay, talk to me about insurance. Do we have to have our own insurance on this space, or does the city's policy cover it?
That I do not know. As a self-insured entity, we have not taken out my department has not taken out a special insurance policy for that space, but that is an interesting question, and we'll come back to you.
We don't have a renter's policy. And the contents of our building policies would not cover properties that we don't own without an additional rider. So the answer is, unless the building has insurance next door. And this is what we did with this space next door too, is some of the insurance is covered by the existing coverage, and if the department or the city thinks it needs additional coverage, we can purchase that, but right now there is no additional coverage.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Azak.
Thank you, Councilor Castro asked some of my questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Davenport.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, obviously, Attorney Bridget Solis, I just want to, thank you publicly. Obviously, I know that you will be leaving the city, and I just want to say thank you for your, obviously, unwavering commitment and dedication, to the city of Champion. And I know you since, I started here, and whenever I need something from you, you're always ready to go. And I know sometimes, people don't acknowledge, people's hard work, and obviously it was not easy. It was challenging, but you put your time, you put your energy. And I don't know what you're gonna do next. Whatever you choose to do, I just want to wish you, best of luck.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Stay positive, and you're gonna do well. I just want to say thank you to you on behalf of the people, on behalf of the residents who sent me here, to represent them. Thank you for what you did for the city of Champion. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor, and I echo that as well. Councilors, any other questions? Was a
Motion made and
Okay.
seconded,
A
yeah.
motion has been made, properly seconded, to recommend this matter favorably. All in favor? Anyone opposed? The order is recommended favorable.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Item 9, order that the City Council hereby declare number 7 Commercial Street, Brockton Police Headquarters as surplus and available for disposition and sale to the most advantageous proposer after soliciting requests for proposals, and further that the mayor be and hereby is authorized to execute any and all documents necessary to dispose of said property. Invited, Honorable Mayor Robert Sullivan, CFO Dr. Troy Clarkson, Director of Planning and Economic Development Rob May.
Good evening, Dr. Clarkson and Director May. Floor is yours.
Good evening, sir. I appreciate you sponsoring this piece of legislation to declare the property surplus. As you know, the city has invested a considerable sum of funds to build a modern state-of-the-art public safety facility that will now render the current obsolete police headquarters available, are surplus, and we're looking for an order so that we can advance a request for proposal to find a developer who will take on the building. We have met preliminarily with the MBTA. There are several easements that run over that property. We're working with Ms. Bridges' office to prepare a ALTA survey. She's preparing a title research, and we'll be able to advance that as soon as the building is vacated.
Thank you. Dr. Clarkson, do you have anything to add?
I think Rob pretty much encapsulated it. I know there were some questions about the process. This is the first step in the process in Chapter 30B, the Uniform Procurement Act, is to declare it surplus. And so we will, as always, follow the rest of the steps. But in order for us to proceed, this is really the first step to help us move the process along.
Thank you. Councilor Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know from conversations that actually took place behind the scenes there that the intention is to refer this eventually to the Real Estate Committee. But I would like to, submit in a form of a motion or in some way, if it needs to be done at the council meeting, that this property, to put a condition on this property that it will not be sold to a non-tax paying. I think the conversations that Council Fowler and I had, we've got a prime piece of real estate in the middle of this city, and I think it's of the utmost importance that we somehow sell this piece of property to a tax-generating property in this city, that we put some sort of a condition on the RFP that actually states the fact that this property will not be convened to anyone that is not a tax-paying entity. So how do I go about doing that?
Well, this is the governing body that in the surplus process we are allowed to input any use restriction on the property. So it would be this governing body that adds that use restriction. I'm sure it could be done by amendment or essentially be done by amendment.
Yeah, and I might recommend, if you are going to refer to real estate, it would have to go back to council, then be referred. I might recommend you hold off till that meeting, and we'll make sure that we have Attorney Resnick at that meeting.
You never know. I mean, some of us could get sick or something, and make sure that.
Well, it still has to come back for final vote.
Yeah. Well, I could get sick for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks.
You wouldn't get sick of me.
Oh,
I mean, you could certainly make the motion tonight to do
Well,
that.
I just wanted to be on record to, to state that, often we have these nice piece of lands in the middle of the city that are actually put out there, and then before you know it, and again, I run a nonprofit that actually pays some taxes in this community, but I wanted to make sure that if this piece of property is picked up by a developer, that it gets picked up by someone that will be tax-bearing and tax-paying to this community.
Understood, absolutely, because the statute allows for this governing body to add use restrictions. So if that's the will of this council, then that's something that we should add.
And I'd like to make that in a form of a motion to be attached to this particular.
So the motion is to
put a condition that this piece of property will not be sold to a non-tax-paying entity.
And was there a second?
Yes.
Second.
Did we want to, yeah, so we're going to go on the motion and just have a further discussion and then come back to that amended motion.
So your discussion now can be on this amendment. Is on the offered amendment.
Amendment only?
That would be the discussion first, and then after you vote on the amendment, you can still discuss the item further. So right now, the motion on the floor is to add the stipulation that it cannot be sold to a non-tax-paying entity.
Okay, so councilors, I know a few of you would like to speak on this issue. The most immediate conversation is going to be on the amendment, and then we can open it up for the fuller discussion on the agenda item. So discussion on this amendment, councilors. Councilor Razak.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I agree with Councilor Rodriguez, but I think getting correct wording from Attorney Resnick will help to make sure that we are, because I don't know if it's just, a non-tax-paying entity, but getting the right developer to come into this property. So I agree with Councilor Rodriguez. I just think we should work on the wording. I don't know if that wording is I don't know what the language is. I don't know if it's correct language. Maybe attorney.
Can we ask the solicitor, maybe she
Yes,
can provide
please.
that?
That's what.
Yeah. Madam
I'm under
Solicitor.
the understanding that we technically can't use that wording.
No, actually, to be honest with you, I'm not, you should be asking your attorney,
Okay.
not the city attorney in this case.
Well, just in terms of the conversation, and since I'm here, thank you for inviting me up here for this. The city council has broad discretion in this conversation. That's the advice to you all, is that establishing the criteria for determining what you want there and who to select as your buyer or developer, setting the terms of the sale, that is up to you all. And so in heeding the advice of the esteemed clerk, you may wish to discuss this tonight and then potentially file the amendment the next time. So, because I don't want to bore you with potential constitutional issues, but in terms of the big conversation, disposing of property or acquiring property is a legislative function. So that is all offer for you on that.
Thank you, Madam Solicitor.
So,
Councilor Razak, on the amendment, are you
so I'm
holding
just,
the floor?
like, I understand what Councilor Rodriguez wants to do. I'm just not comfortable with the way it's worded, so I would
I'm
prefer
just
that
saying,
we.
we can always
we can-
retweak it before it comes back to us with the proper verbiage and stuff, but at least it comes out of this committee with a sense that that is what our intention is,
Okay.
so it's clearly understood, and then we can kind of work on the verbiage to get it to where it needs to be by the time it comes back to
In
the
subcommittee,
final.
yes.
If part of the, just to help you with the conversation, if part of the criteria is the selection of a tax-paying buyer, then I would just suggest you frame it as that in terms of the conversation. Because that's really the goal, is getting someone there that's going to make the tax payment. And that's who you're searching. It's not who you're not searching for. It's who you're searching for to buy it.
Understood.
That wording sounds better to me.
I don't care, as long as it gets a quarterly tax like the rest of us, so that they're paying taxes.
I might recommend you withdraw your motion and we'll rephrase it.
Yes, please.
All right, well, I will draw it, so for the
I'll
purpose of
withdraw my
rephrasing.
second.
Okay.
Okay,
And if I
Counselor.
could, just recommend,
What
as
she
you just
said,
heard, motion to add a stipulation that the property be sold
to a
to a
tax-paying
tax-paying entity.
entity.
okay. So
Second.
Councilor Rodriguez removed his motion. Councilor Lally removed his second. Councilor Rodriguez just remade his motion as stated by the clerk. Do we have a second?
I seconded
Counselor
it. Yeah,
Councilor Azak seconds that. So the discussion right now is on this amendment. Councilor Frywell, you want to speak to the amendment?
I do, and this is exactly what I didn't want to have happen tonight. You're talking about a premier piece of property in the center of the city, right next to the MBTA line. And what if a hospital that is willing to pay full taxes decides they're going to put up an addiction services center there? Certainly, we do need addiction services, but I'm not sure that would help the downtown. This particular issue, and I urge all of you, because we're sent here to represent the best interests of the city, this particular amendment is one that should be carefully considered with our legislative council, carefully worded, and we should go back and forth on what we want there, but also what we don't want there, and I'm not sure that this amendment does that. I'm just not sure that does that.
Councilor Davenport.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To back up what Council Fowler just stated, given the fact that the council solicitor is not here. And in regard to legal consequences, in my view, I would assume that it would be in the interest of this council not to move like this, because there could be some legal implication in terms of how we draft this. And obviously, we're not going to sell this property tonight. I would wait and see when she's back and have this conversation with her. I mean, this is something I guess, you know, the council can call the solicitor to talk about it, rather than voting on something tonight and then find out the legality of it is wrong. So in my view, I believe, yes, it is a prime location. Whatever we put there should be something that can somewhat, you know, bring money to our community. But I'm not comfortable supporting something saying that we can only sell this property if you are willing to pay taxes. So I feel like this is a conversation that is worth having, but I would wait until the city council attorney comes back and have a conversation with her in terms of how do we move forward. Because I just don't want to have any legal implication whereby my name is involved in something that I openly voted on. So I like the idea, you know, I would like to back it, but I think there could be a different way of approaching it. And obviously our legal counsel, she's not here. And I'm not a lawyer in terms of like come up with my own ideas, but there are rules and regulation in terms of like what we can and what we cannot do. I would encourage my colleague to wait, have a conversation with her and see what happened from there. And if we have to postpone this, let's postpone it. I do believe that we should have a conversation in terms of what goes there. I believe that. But the question is, how do we approach that? And I think that's where it might be somewhat complicated, given the fact that obviously we don't know how to approach it. And I appreciate the city solicitor for your advice, but given the fact that the city council has its own legal counselor, we can rely heavily on that person, which is the person that we trust the most to advise this council to move forward. But kudos to your advice, and I wouldn't even call it an advice, but your ideas in terms of how to somewhat, you know, settle this conversation so we don't get ourselves into something that later we find out there might be some consequences. So with that being said, Mr. Chairman, I will leave it there.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Nicastro.
Thank you. Well, the first thing is on this amendment, and I'm with you. I know what I don't want there. But it seems to me the city's employees and officials should be presenting to us what is out there. What are they seeing? What are their thoughts on it? And kind of giving us some guidance. We shouldn't be ricocheting off the walls with this. It's just come in tonight. This is a big deal. If you read the paperwork on the assessor's website, this property is assessed for tax purposes at several $1 million, and more than likely the market value of it is more. Well, I'd like to know what that market value is. I'd like to know what an appraisal says. I think, I can't, you know, reading the state law on this, it says that the governing body makes it available for disposition and then specifies the restrictions you place on it. I can't place any restrictions, including this one, without knowing what it's worth. We say we don't want a non-tax-paying entity there. Well, I get that. But the Mass Bay Transit Authority doesn't pay taxes, but yet I can see great benefits to perhaps them taking us and paying us for it, even though they're not going to pay any taxes. So I don't see this as something we decide tonight. I see this as, why aren't they coming to us with what's going on and what they're seeing? And I don't see any rush to this at all, that it has to be decided tonight. And I think it's really important that we have all the information that we need. For me, I need an appraisal. I need to know what is the market value of this property. And then from there, let's talk about what the experts in the city think would be good uses for this and what's out there, and make our decision in an informed way. That's the way business people do it, and I think we're running a business here. So those are my strong suggestions. I would wait on amending it, but also keep it in the back of our heads, because that's a good amendment. That's a worthy idea. I also wonder whether we can limit it that way by law. So that's something else we need our legislative counsel for. So in short, I think we need the city's employees to advise us as to what is possible here, what do they see happening, and I want them to get a market value appraisal, I really do, before we take any action disposing it. It's too important to not get it right.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Lally.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just on the amendment.
On the amendment.
I have other questions, but sticking right to the amendment. Right off the bat, I think that it definitely is good. There's a lot more to be added to this, to be adjusted to this over time. This amendment, if passed tonight, may be edited, amended itself, retracted at another point in time, either in the real estate committee or back in front of this body. But I also think that we are, as a body, we are capable of and prepared to make any kind of tweak or edit as necessary in the future. I think that coming out with, this is the first time that this is in front of us. This is the first time the council's had its chance to sink its teeth into this, to set the tone, to say what we think and where we want to take this. I think even if it's an imperfect vessel, making that statement right now that we want this to be a part of the future of downtown, that we want this to be a contributing, tax-paying development, that it's somewhere people will want to live or it's somewhere people will want to go to, that is a tone worth setting in this context. I think we're kind of also getting a little in the weeds with this position. So from my understanding, this is, if passed tonight, recommended favorably back to the full city council. This is then referred to the Committee on Real Estate. Is that correct?
I'm not sure it would come out of here with a favorable recommendation. I believe that
Hypothetically.
Well, it has to.
So the motion would have to be made.
It has to go back to the council, no matter how
It's going to have to go back to
Yes.
council.
So you would want a
regardless.
favorable recommendation back, then you can refer it to committee. Or a motion can be made, or you can, as president, refer it back to the real estate committee.
But it needs a recommendation to go back to the
To go
city
back to the council. You can't refer from
Yeah,
one
this has to
committee to
be-
another.
Right,
committee.
no, but
It has to be favorably or unfavorably recommended from this meeting or postponed, but,
No, if it's postponed, it would stay in this committee.
right, it's not going to leave the committee that way. But in order to leave the committee, it needs a recommendation, favorable or unfavorable.
understood. Okay.
So my question was about going to real estate, because if it is going to real estate, that is another opportunity for us to, again, dig in and ask, more questions and get more information. I think that, the council has broad authority when it comes to matters like this, and this isn't the first matter that I've encountered where we have this opportunity, and a lot of my colleagues, I could say the same. We have a lot of ability to be very clear in what we're looking for. We can be a lot more specific than this amendment, so that's why I'm saying I think there's going to be a lot more amendments made in the future. And I will withhold because this is commentary on the amendment, I'll withhold with some of my suggestions or my thoughts and other questions. But this is a really prominent property. This is a really big opportunity. It's worth a lot, as Councilman Castro mentioned. I don't see a need to rush. I see, let's get it done. Let's get it done right. But that being said, let's get it done in the right place. And I think Real Estate Committee is the most appropriate place for that. Interested councilors can weigh in. Obviously, the ward councilor, yourself, Mr. Chairman, you're going to have a lot to say in this. You are the councilor duly elected to represent Ward 5. But I think that we make the statement, I think that we set the tone, and I think we say we want this to contribute to downtown and contribute to Brockton. We do not want to create a situation in which this is a non-tax-paying property, and as Councillor Farwell mentioned, we do not want to create a situation in which this property adds to the problems or the burdens that downtown is currently grappling with. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Rodriguez, second round, and then we'll move to vote on the motion.
Well, I basically just wanted to state what Councilor Lally was saying, because, you know, we got to take the initial step. You know, we can sit here and kind of, you know, go back and forth, but we know for a fact that this is probably about a month or so away from coming back to this council for the final vote. By the time it goes to real estate, it comes back. Well, first it's got to go to the council and then get referred to real estate, and then real estate goes through it, and then it comes back to the council for a final vote. So we have plenty of time to add what we want to add or deduct what we want to deduct from this. But I think I want to stick with that, you know, statement in this sense, because I've been in this council for 12 years now, and I've seen us negating something at this level. And then it goes, by the time it comes back to us, everybody, oh, it's got nice bells and whistles and this and that, and it loses what we are trying to do in the middle of this city, which is growing our tax base. And for that reason, I think we need to be steadfast in the sense of what we ask for, to make sure that is in the forefront of every thinking that goes on beyond us, that this needs to be a tax-generating piece of property in the middle of this city. It's a prime piece of property. There's a lot of eyes on it, and I think it's important for us to stick with that statement that we want it to generate. Because I can see a lot of these nonprofits in the community, they'll come in with this beautiful plan and a nice song and dance in the sense, but when it's all said and done, we're going to be right at what we've been before. And for us to set the right tone, I think it's ideal for us to do that at this level, and as it moves forward, then again, we can tweak it, add what we want, don't want to it. There's plenty of opportunities, but in its raw version that this is, for us to move this point forward, I think it's important for us to send that message to everyone.
Thank you, Councilor. We're going to have an opportunity to discuss this further after we vote on this specific amendment. And then, so if councilors have additional questions or statements to make, we can do that after this vote.
Then I have a point of inquiry to you. The way the amendment is worded, does that prevent someone who offers to pay full taxes on that property from locating something there that we don't want? I don't believe we have worded this properly. That's my problem with the amendment.
But I think, through you, Mr. Chairman, I think we can do that in the subcommittee. When it goes to real estate, we can add whatever language we want to add to it, but at least a message goes out here that we're not going to sit here and put it out there so that all these nonprofits can gobble it up, because that's exactly what's going to happen. I can just see a nice little treatment center being generated right off the train stations where people can come from all over the place, and that's going to happen in the downtown area.
So, councilors, this is not a back and forth. I'd say the contemplation is that this matter will go to real estate where it can be further discussed. So a motion has been made, properly seconded.
Roll call vote on the amendment, please.
Do we have to vote on that?
No.
Roll call? No. Okay. So a motion was made, properly seconded on the amendment. Roll call vote. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Ezak.
Yes.
Darren Alcourt.
No.
Farwell.
No.
Griffin.
Yes.
Lally.
Yes.
Nicastro.
No.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Sixera.
No.
Thompson.
Yes.
5 in the affirmative, 4 in the opposition.
The amendment is granted. Councilors, I will now open it up for discussion on the underlying order as amended. Councilors, Councilor Razak.
Thank you. So I just would like to say that there are so many people in the community that have been asking about this property and what's going to happen to it. So it's really, this is exciting times for Brockton. This is a great piece of real estate, and everybody's excited to see what's going to happen to it. So I look forward to that. I know that you mentioned earlier, Mr. May, that you have spoken to, has there been interest in it? Have there been developers that have asked about this property?
Yes, Counselor, developers have inquired about the property, but the first step is to clear a path with the MBTA. They hold several easements across the property, and any development that would come forward will need to conform with MBTA's rules and regulations and their needs to be able to service and maintain the tracks.
Okay. Now, I know we had a conversation a long time ago when we first started talking about the new police and fire station, so I know you had said that I had asked you what would you like to see there, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but do you remember what you said you would like to see at that property?
Well, the market has changed quite a bit since we did discuss that, but in consultation with the mayor's office and a recent conversation with some banks, I could easily see a nice medium-density mixed-use development, retail and commercial on the first floor, and 3 or 4 floors of residential above that,
Okay.
plus improved access to the station.
And you think residential with the noise of the train, that would work?
Yes, it would. It's not a problem with triple insulated windows.
And actually, that's what you told me years ago. So, so when I think of this property, I think of, I lived in Europe and I lived in France, and many train stations have commercial, and it's right there, right next to the
Right
train
on top,
station.
yes.
So it's prime real estate. So once again, this is exciting for us. I know we haven't done an appraisal, we haven't done any of that, but what would you, like ballpark figure, what would you think this type of property would go for?
Geez. I wouldn't even venture to ballpark on it, given the restrictions that MBTA has put on the property. It is a good-sized commercial property. It's a little over an acre, and it has a lot of high development potential.
Okay. Okay, I understand. Now, with the restrictions that the MBTA has put on there, I mean, do we have any rights to, I know they have their restrictions, but are they workable, or are they?
Oh, they're all very workable.
Okay, very
Yes,
good.
we need to be able to build a certain number of feet away from the tracks. We need to be able to provide vehicular access up to the platform level. Those are all things that we can work with, but we need to have those all laid out so that we can incorporate that into the request for a proposal that goes out.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you again, and I just want to state this is really, I know a lot of people are waiting to see what we do with this.
It's going to be exciting.
It is exciting. I'm excited about it, and I agree with Councilor Rodriguez. I think we need to get something really this is the city's kind of, a jewel, I guess, in the city. So we want something really exciting to happen, as it is prime real estate. We've been talking about how our transportation, our train stations are they're our biggest assets. So we look forward to this.
And because we own it, we can control its disposition. I think that's a very important asset, and we need to be able to attach some caveats to it so that we get exactly what we want and not something that does not enhance downtown.
Downtown, and that's, I think we're all
Yes, we are.
together on that. So thank you again, Mr. May. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Castro.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you for being here, Mr. May. You're adding value. So I'm glad you just mentioned some of those MBTA restrictions, because those would be considered in an appraisal in getting to an approximate
Yes, they
market
would.
value. And it would also be set forth an explanation of them, which would be very helpful to everyone here on the council to know what are the restrictions, the limitations. I Councilors, I strongly feel that we need an appraisal of this property before we can impose real restrictions on it. I will be making a motion tonight to hold off on deciding on disposition until we get an appraisal and see what it holds for us and how it will impact the ability to use the property. So beyond that, we're talking about Europe, I'm familiar with those two. You think the highest and best use, without knowing more from an appraisal, would be a mixed-use development?
I do, ma'am.
And you don't see the parking limitations as something that would negatively impact a use like that?
No, the site is large enough that it could probably, using podium-style development, be able to park itself, being so close to the tracks, train station and the transit center across the street. There's probably less of a demand for parking at that site than any other site in the city. So given the right zoning and the ability to maximize development at that site, it should be able to park itself.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor.
Councilor Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Mr. May.
Good evening, sir.
I think a lot of good questions being asked here, and definitely, you know, as 30B states, this body is the governing body that, you know, really has authority over the disposition of this property. That includes some of the use restrictions that have been brought up this evening, like Councilor Rodriguez requests for a tax-paying entity purchasing this property. In my experience, you know, working closely with your office over the last few years in different development projects throughout the city, we usually put together a plan prior to seeking an RFP. That way, this council understands what is going, you know, what's being developed. The public in general understands. They have their input through that planning process of, you know, how we're looking to develop the city. Councilors, if we go ahead and approve the order as drafted, we kind of lose our power. This order essentially states that once we declare this property surplus, all the power and decision-making process is now transferred to the mayor's office and the executive, right? That they have the power to enter into any agreements and draft the documents necessary for the RFPs and all of that. And so, you know, I don't think at this point I'm looking to surrender any of our authority. I want to make sure that we have a discussion over what the city wants to put on this really valuable property. And so right now it's usually the restrictions that accompany a parcel of land is what it's zoned for. Currently, I believe this property is zoned as an I2 zone, so that's an industrial zone. I don't believe the city has.
It is within our 40R zoning overlay district. So,
okay, so it's also in the overlay. So a 40R development, you know, a mixed-use 40R development could be placed here. So these are kind of some of the discussions that I think that we as a body need to have. That way, you know, we can exercise our authority by the surplus order on determining what uses we may want there, what uses we may not want there. And so I think a lot of that discussion can be had in our real estate committee, but I'm hoping over the next few weeks that, you know, we could pencil out some sort of plan or at least some idea of what this property is, the best highest use for this property, and maybe some plan what a draft RFP would look like. Who are we trying to attract? And is there the potential that, you know, that we once this comes out of our hands and now it's in the executive's hands, you know, that RFP could be narrowly tailored to a specific developer or, one specific idea or, and I just don't, I think as the governing body, I'm not ready to release our authority under this surplus order. And so I agree with Councilor Nicastro. I'd like to see an appraisal, and I would like to better understand what the MBTA restrictions are. And I would like some understanding of what you, as our city planner, would believe is the best, highest use for this property. And then that way, that can be presented at the real estate committee hearing, and that we can have a fuller discussion on what we believe makes sense or does not make sense for this property. And so I support this issue or this order being referred back to City Council to then be referred to our Standing Committee on Real Estate so that we can have a fuller discussion on what would be contemplated on this piece of property. And hopefully you can provide us with some direction in that process.
Happy to.
Okay, great. That's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Counselor.
Farwell.
Counselor Farwell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Colleagues, we've known that the 7 Commercial Street was going to be available for months. It is regrettable to me that it makes it appear as though we're hurrying tonight without assembling all of the relevant facts that we need. I'd like to see a copy of the restrictions that the MBTA has placed on the property. I'd like to know if there's anything that our engineering office or DPW knows about that area that could impact the value. I would like to have an appraisal. I think a responsible legislative body works through its committee structure. And for that reason, I'm going to make a motion to refer this matter as amended back to the City Council to then be referred to the Real Estate Committee. And if you read our ordinances, that is precisely why we have a Real Estate Committee, is to consider property to be sold. So my motion is to refer this back to the City Council to then be referred to the Real Estate Committee.
Before you motion, Counselor, we do have one counselor left on the docket who'd like to speak. Would you be willing to wait, or should
We don't have a second yet anyways.
Yeah, we don't have a second. Okay.
Second, I second that motion.
Motion's made and seconded.
On the
Are you
motion.
all set, Counselor?
I'm all set.
Anyone on the motion? Counselor Derenoncourt?
Yeah, it's really quick. Obviously, I know you are leaving, which is sad, but given the fact that you got the bat across the street, and we got to having a person, a business entity, right, coming to purchase that property, what impact do you think that will have in actually having something there? Because obviously the bus station is not going nowhere, and you got people from all of the places using the bad bus and traffic and what have you. So I would like to have an understanding. Obviously, you don't have to give us too much detail, but selling it to a company, talking to the MBTA, and of course earlier you stated that the proximity of the train station. Obviously, I know that there's a step to go there, but there's a gate which access through, the Brockton Police as we speak. So what consideration or how do you think they're gonna approach, not just building something there, but what's going on across the street?
This is a very important site in the city, and one of the reasons why we worked so hard over the last few years to position the need for a new public safety building so that we could make this site available in the long run. As you exit the train into Brockton, it's going to be the first thing you see, and it's your welcome point to the position to the city, and it is our chance to make that first impression to people. It's also going to be a gateway not to just downtown, but also to the Trout Brook redevelopment project, the old CSX rail yards, which is advancing at a good pace. So there is a chance to really create a strong, walkable, mixed-use development that expands on both sides of the tracks and also expands north of Court Street as we expand downtown further north. This is really an interesting opportunity and a great time to position this site for the future. If we can just get our interest rates down, we'll be in a much better position. But there are people who are interested in the site. We need to set the table properly, as Councilor Farwell had recommended.
So, I mean, just for the record, this is something that I would recommend, especially traffic study, because obviously, you know, depending on what is being built there, I mean, we do have traffic issues in the city. That's not a reason not to approach it, but, you know, given the proximity of the bus station, the train station, and that piece of property, which is somewhat like, you know, rectangular, I feel like, you know, there's so much that we're going to have to look into in terms of like what's going on there. And obviously, you know, the conversation is very interesting, and I'm yet to see, you know, how deep we're going to go into it. And again, thank you, Mr. Chairman, for taking my question, and thank you, Mr. May, for taking the time to come down here and answer it. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor, the motion has been properly...
Just, I want to clarify, the motion is to recommend favorably back to the full City Council with the further requests that would then be referred to the Real Estate Committee.
If I have to include the word favorably, I will.
We do. That's why I wanted to clarify it. We do.
Has to be favorable or unfavorable. So motion's been... Oh, it has to be favorable. It has to be affirmative. All right, the motion's been properly made and seconded. All in favor? All opposed? The motion passes. Thank you, Director.
Thank you all.
Councilors, that concludes our agenda this evening. I will open it up for councilors' personal recognition. Any councilors want to be recognized? Councilor Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I kind of have a little bit of a statement that I just wanted to go over here. And colleagues, it's easy to be politically correct, especially when we're campaigning, knocking on doors, you know, augmenting our resumes, inventing abilities that we don't really have, and making promises that we can't keep. As someone who's been on this council for 12 years, I feel the need to continue to govern, even if it means taking time away from campaigning. As you know, I'm campaigning for mayor. But I believe in doing the right thing for the residents in this city. I recently took a trip that some have referred to as a taxpayer-sponsored beach vacation. Yes, I did take a 24-hour trip to Florida for a fact-finding mission. However, I paid for that trip myself, and I think if the CFO was here, he can actually attest to that. But I don't want facts to get in the way of a social media post or even seeking affirmation. My reasons were personal because the provision of water to the residents of the great city should be personal. I plan on living in this city for years to come. I'm not planning on moving out. I've been working with Aquaria my entire tenure here in the council, and for the last 6 months, and when I served as mayor and later working along with some of the councilors here in this body, we were seeking resolutions to try to figure out how to get out of the monstrous contracts that we inherit from Aquaria. There was another question as to why the city solicitor was not part of the trip. The obvious answer is you should perhaps ask the mayor, who the solicitor works for. And we must remember that the mayor is the only authorized negotiator of contracts on behalf of this city. The mayor couldn't make the trip, and at least in my opinion, we were not given orders to go and negotiate on behalf of the mayor or of the city. And again, the mayor is the only one that could do that. This was more of a fact-finding trip and understand the 20-year contract that we were given at least back in 2008. So I did find out a couple things. Our contract began, the 20-year contract for Aquaria began on November of 2008, and it expires on November of 2028. I had an opportunity to tour a plant that's similar to the plant that we have in Dayton. And it's owned by the City of Miami. The City of Miami owns it, and it's operated by the Aquaria Group. It runs 24/7, and it provides 10 million gallons of water on a daily basis to the residents of that community. And one thing that I found to be a little of an interest is that they had gone 2,600 days without an incident or an injury, according to the officials.
Mr. Chairman, I almost never do this, and I apologize, but this would be a great resolve.
I do. It's in here.
But this is not a personal recognition.
Well, it is,
Well, if I could finish, please. This is not a personal recognition, and I would ask that you consider my remarks and have the counselor appear as pursuant to a resolve, because this wasn't on the agenda. People didn't know we were going to have a discussion about the trip to Miami, and I think it's patently unfair. And I would say the same if anyone did this. It's just not the right thing to do, in my opinion.
Counselor, I do plan to file a resolve to bring the CFO, the DPW, and some of the other neighboring folks that we had been basically talking with to come out here and discuss the water issue in this community.
And Mr. Chairman, I agree with that.
Because I heard that loudly in the sense that there's some comments made in the sense of something that I did privately from my own understanding that, frankly, I did not appreciate. That's why I'm bringing it up as a personal moment of privilege to make sure that I stated here that I intend to do this, to bring the individuals up here for a resolve that I will file this week to have the proper individuals come up here to talk about what we actually discovered when we went down there. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor. With no further city business before this council, I declare this meeting adjourned.
No, Jeff.